I'm going to do is I'm going to start just by touching her and see what she does. Easy, pretty girl. Good girl. Good girl. You know, a lot of horses relate the whip on, you know, near them or on them or pointing to them to going forward. So that's one of the first. But see, she's already doing some little things. And I'm just going to start really lightly tapping and see if she notices it. Good girl, Ray. Good girl. And even just that breath, I'm going to say excellent, because a deep breath takes quite a bit of relaxation. I'm going to go back, and because she's sensitive, I will generally try to remember to always start by rubbing a little bit first. So with her, I'm trying to be really, really gentle and doing a slower speed. Horses seem to have their own preferences for the speed and, you know, how hard it is, just like we do for massaging. Good girl. Good girl. And that nose down to the ground is a pretty typical relaxation response. Good girl. Yes, we're not entirely sure. You know, we're stimulating the fascia. Oh, good girl. Good girl. And especially once I can go just a little bit harder and in different places, we'll be going just hard enough where when you're close, you can see that her muscles, you know, that there's almost a ripple going through her muscles with each little tap. Good girl. Good girl. And having her napping friend right there is helpful too. See your little lip twitching. Good girl. Then I'm holding the whip pretty loosely in my hand so that as it kind of bounces on her, good girl. As it's more so I'm just kind of letting it bounce on her than actually tapping her very hard. I'm going to go ahead and move back just a little bit now. Sorry, Ray. Sorry, good girl. I'm going just a little bit harder now, not by much. So I have kind of, you'll see there's kind of a precise pattern I go through, and we'll just see how much she's up for doing today. She might not be up for doing all of it. We go down the top line on what's called the bladder meridian line, which is used in Masterson method and massage. Good girl. Yeah, good. And I start just behind their shoulder because that's something recommended when you're tapping. But also just because I notice the bladder meridian for Masterson method, they start up right at their pole, and there can often be a lot of problems in their pole. So a lot of horses that I work with, that's a huge turnoff to them, and they're immediately uncertain about what I'm doing because I'm starting somewhere that's uncomfortable. So I've stuck with starting right behind their withers because it was an original recommendation from a slightly different method. And also just because I found that it works a little bit better than starting up by their pole. You'll see she's taking those really deep breaths. Good girl. Checking in every once in a while to see, look at what I'm doing. Good girl. Good girl. Good girl. I'm just going to keep moving down that line. And I'm not looking for even, she doesn't have to lick and chew every time or drop her head really far every time. I just want to see that she's maintaining relaxation. Because that means I'm probably not hitting anywhere that's too troubled at the moment. So I just keep going. If I hit a spot where she's concerned, and tries to leave or something like that, then that's an area we'll focus on a bit more. So this one, she got distracted. You can see her lower lip still hanging. Good girl. Good girl. Some lip twitches. Such a good girl, Ray. And this turning all the way around like that could even be her participating a bit because she's stretching as we're moving down. So I go along their top line usually first, and then I usually go along a midline in their body, and then I actually go along the bottom line of their body too. You know, just kind of exploring on different points and seeing if any of them give me a bigger response to work through. What's a little bit different is I'm not necessarily looking for a big response. If anything, I would love her to stay relaxed the whole time, because I don't want to be tapping so hard that we have such a big response that we have to work down from, if that makes sense. You know, if anything, I'd rather her just be able to enjoy it and like it the whole time, and let me know with smaller things that I'm on an area of concern, but that I'm not tapping hard enough for it to cause her concern enough that she feels like she needs to leave. So it's body work, but a little bit of a different idea behind it. So see how her eye froze up just a little bit there, and then she relaxed? Yeah, I remember Jackie telling me about that. Oh, see, that's a good spot now, huh? Good girl. So that's exactly what I was talking about. I want it to be so minimally uncomfortable that all she has to do is, you know, freeze up her eye a little bit like that, or even just put her head up a little bit, that's the extent of her discomfort, and she can pretty easily relax into it. I don't want to hit a spot so hard that it's so uncomfortable that she feels like she needs to leave. And I want this to be as enjoyable of a process as possible for the horse, while also starting to address the areas that are causing them discomfort. Good girl. Yeah, so once I'm more familiar with the horse and they're familiar with the tapping, you know, I'll start experimenting with tapping a little bit harder, tapping a little bit more quickly. What's interesting is some horses even seem to like different rhythms. So yeah, I start experimenting with that as we become more familiar with it. Good girl. But for the very first session, I want it to be, you know, if this is working, this really light kind of slow tapping, I found a spot that feels good. See how her eyes got sleepy? And she's kind of tipping her pole back and forth. Good girl. He's a little frozen now, and I can't tell if it's because she heard a noise. Oh, but that resting is good. Good girl.